There are objects in your home that are acting like open doors for dark forces, and the worst part is that you might not even realize it. These things you consider harmless could be the true cause behind the problems your family has been facing. Constant conflicts, unexplained illnesses, persistent bad luck, and that heavy feeling that never seems to go away. No matter how much you clean or reorganize your house, ancient texts from St. Cyprian, the magician who became a saint, warn us about these everyday objects that silently invite malevolent entities to settle in our sacred spaces. After decades of studying these manuscripts and observing hundreds of cases in affected homes, I can confidently tell you that the origin of your suffering may be hiding in plain sight, disguised as an innocent memento, a gift, or even a cherished antique. Have you ever wondered why your child wakes up screaming in the middle of the night for no apparent reason? Why do arguments erupt out of nowhere when the whole family is gathered? Why do you feel like someone is watching you when you're alone in certain rooms? Why does money seem to slip through your fingers no matter how hard you work? The answer doesn't come from outside. You don't need to look for witchcraft or third-party spells. The problem lies within your home, hidden in objects that seem normal but act like antennas, attracting exactly what you don't want near you and your loved ones. There's a reason why St. Cyprian, who understood the secrets of both sides of the spiritual veil, dedicated entire chapters of his grimoire to identifying and neutralizing these cursed objects. Negative entities don't need formal invitations to enter your home. They only need an anchor point, an object that resonates with their vibrational frequency, allowing them to first observe, then influence, and finally manifest fully in your everyday reality. You may have noticed that certain areas of your house always feel cold, regardless of the outside temperature. Perhaps you've heard unexplained noises while everyone is asleep, or seen shadows moving out of the corner of your eye. You might have pets that refuse to enter certain rooms or plants that die for no reason, always in the same spot. All these are signs that something is amiss with the energy in your home. The most alarming thing is that the longer these objects remain in your house, the stronger the connection they establish with the other side, and the harder it becomes to break the negative influence they exert over your family. The good news is that once you learn to identify them, you can safely remove them and reclaim your sacred space. I'm not talking about superstitions or old wives' tales. I'm referring to ancient knowledge that has been validated time and again by those who experienced miraculous changes after purifying their homes. The wisdom of St. Cyprian has endured through the centuries because it works. It recognizes a fundamental truth about the nature of our reality. The visible and the invisible are in constant interaction, and we can control what kind of forces we invite into our lives. In this video, I will reveal exactly which cursed objects might be lurking in your home right now. You will learn to identify them accurately, recognize the signs that indicate they are negatively affecting your family, and most importantly, you will learn exactly how to safely remove them so their negative influence doesn't linger. It's not just about throwing things away. Objects that have served as bridges for negative entities must be properly neutralized, following the methods that St. Cyprian himself developed to safely work at the boundary between worlds. I will guide you step by step on how to do this without putting your family at risk. I will share real-life cases of homes that were completely freed after identifying and removing these cursed objects. Families that went from constant illness to full health, from financial scarcity to prosperity, from discord to deep harmony. These are not unreachable miracles. They are the natural result of clearing your energetic space. What are these objects? How can you recognize them? And more importantly, how can you protect your family by correctly eliminating them? In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly which dangerous items to look out for and the clear signs that your home is already being affected. Ask you to watch this video to the end because each object I mention has specific characteristics and particular methods for removal. Leave a powerful comment. I protect my home with the wisdom of St. Cyprian and like this video because you might be helping someone who urgently needs this information to regain peace in their home. Why can a physical object, a simple item, become a channel for destructive energies or malevolent entities? The answer lies in understanding that absolutely everything in the universe vibrates at a specific frequency. This knowledge isn't new. St. Cyprian understood it perfectly when he wrote, "All that is visible is the manifestation of the invisible." Nothing is completely inanimate. Every object you own, from the smallest accessory to the largest piece of furniture, emits energetic waves that constantly interact with your personal energy field and that of your family. The ancient grimoires of St. Cyprian describe these vibrations as breaths that all objects emanate, invisible to the naked eye, but perfectly perceptible to entities from the other side of the veil. Certain objects vibrate at high, luminous frequencies. These uplift the atmosphere, make you feel good, help you breathe deeply, and cause you to smile for no apparent reason. They are like little beacons of light that attract blessings and protection to your home. A blessed rosary, a sacred image kept with devotion, a gift given with true love. All these objects emit elevated, healthy frequencies, but other objects, especially those that have absorbed traumatic experiences, belong to people in suffering or were created with dark intentions, emit low, dense frequencies. St. Cyprian referred to them as objects contaminated by the breath of the fallen. These heavy frequencies completely disrupt the natural harmony of your home, allowing darkness to gain ground over light. It's as if these objects emit a call, a constant invitation to entities that resonate with that same low frequency. It's not unlike a radio that tunes into different stations depending on the frequency you select. When you keep certain objects in your house, you are tuning your home to spiritual stations that you don't want to hear. The great book of St. Cyprian dedicates an entire chapter to what he calls anchor objects, describing how negative entities need a material reference point in our plane to manifest their influence. Without these objects, these entities cannot remain consistently in a space, as they lack the necessary density to anchor themselves to our reality without a material bridge. Objects act like emotional recorders. They register and retain every intense feeling that occurs around them. This isn't a modern concept. St. Cyprian described it as the memory of matter, explaining how certain materials have a greater capacity for absorption than others. Metals, glass, ceramics, and bone are particularly susceptible to this energetic impregnation. Think of a pair of shoes someone wore during the worst year of their life, while going through deep depression or a terminal illness. Those shoes are not just leather and soles. They have captured and stored all that despair. If those shoes end up in your closet, that despair begins to subtly seep into your own energy, like an invisible poison, slowly contaminating clean water. St. Cyprian called this phenomenon the contagion of afflictions, and he specifically warned about the dangers of acquiring second-hand objects without knowing their origin. "What you don't see is more powerful than what you see," he wrote, "for the invisible determines the fate of the visible." Your body already knows how to detect these things. It's no coincidence that many people experience an inexplicable chill when touching certain objects. When you walk by a certain object and feel a knot in your stomach, when a room makes you uneasy for no reason, or when you instinctively avoid touching something, your energy system is alerting you. It's not imagination. It's your internal radar recognizing a frequency that isn't compatible with your well-being. Objects carrying negative frequencies literally lower the vibration of your entire space, making it feel harder to breathe, making silence feel threatening, and causing even normal conversations to end in arguments. In the most severe cases, these objects act as portals that allow increasingly dense and malicious entities to enter. Even objects that were once beautiful and significant can become problematic if you neglect them. If you leave them covered in dust in forgotten corners, or if you keep them in inappropriate places. Saint Cyprian said, "What is neglected corrupts, and what is corrupt attracts the corruptors. Their energy begins to degrade like fruit left out of the refrigerator. Eventually it rots, and that energetic decay starts to affect everything around it. Energy follows the same natural laws as physical matter. What doesn't move stagnates. What stagnates rots. What rots infects everything else. That's why protecting the energy of your home means being extremely selective about what you allow to enter and remain." We'll start with one of the most dangerous objects according to the texts of St. Cyprian, old mirrors, especially those that have witnessed suffering, death, or come from unknown homes. Mirrors are not just decorative items, they are thresholds between dimensions. In the great book of St. Cyprian, he describes them as windows that look in both directions, warning that while we see our reflection, there are eyes on the other side that can see us. They don't just reflect your physical image. They also capture and hold the emotional frequencies of everything that has happened in front of them. An old mirror you buy at a thrift store, inherit or find abandoned, comes with a complete history of other people's experiences. You don't know what that mirror reflected for years or decades. Perhaps it witnessed domestic violence. Maybe it silently observed a terminal illness. It may have captured the final moments of someone before they departed. Unlike a chair that merely sat there, the mirror actively participated in those moments by reflecting them. And in that process, it absorbed them like an emotional sponge. St. Cyprian specifically warned against mirrors that had witnessed deaths, considering them permanent portals that should be treated with extreme care. When you place that mirror in your home, you're not just decorating a wall. You are installing a dimensional window into the experiences of strangers that will now begin to contaminate your environment. It's like connecting your house to a phone line where you hear ghostly conversations from people you never knew. Your family starts to feel things that don't belong to them. Inexplicable sadness, sudden fear, or the persistent feeling of being watched, even when they are alone. Broken or cracked mirrors are even more dangerous because they represent energetic fragmentation. St. Cyprian called them fractured portals, explaining that an intact mirror maintains coherence in its energy field, but when it breaks, that coherence shatters into 1,000 pieces. Imagine a harmonious melody suddenly turning into chaotic, distorted noise. That's what a broken mirror does to the energy of your space. It can no longer maintain stability and instead creates turbulence, confusion, and constant imbalance. Keeping a cracked mirror is like keeping an open wound that never heals. It doesn't matter how much you paid for it or how much sentimental value it holds. Every day it stays in your house. It's filtering chaos into your life. I remember a case of a woman in Monterey who bought a beautiful Victorian mirror at an antique market. From the first night she hung it in her bedroom, she began having vivid nightmares where an old woman watched her from the foot of her bed. Her children started refusing to enter that room, saying the angry lady scared them. When we investigated the mirror's origin, we discovered it had belonged to a house where an elderly woman had died alone, and her body wasn't found until weeks later. Following St. Cyprian's instructions, we neutralized the mirror with consecrated salt, wrapped it in black cloth, and buried it far from the house. The nightmares ceased that very night, and the feeling of presence disappeared completely. The second type of object that should never cross the threshold of your home, according to the teachings of St. Cyprian, are those that come from places where death has been present: hospitals, funeral homes, homes where someone passed away, or nursing homes where many have departed. These places are saturated with overwhelming energetic intensity that seeps into every object that was present during those final moments. Death leaves a deep, specific energetic mark. I'm not saying it's inherently malevolent, but it is extremely dense, loaded with farewell, loss, fear, and pain. Saint Cyprian dedicated an entire chapter to what he called objects witnesses of the last breath, explaining that the moment of death creates a temporary rupture between dimensions, and that rupture is recorded in nearby objects. Items that were exposed for a prolonged time to this atmosphere absorb it completely, like fabric soaking up water until saturated. And when you bring that object into your home, you are bringing all that density into a space that should be dedicated to vitality, growth, and joy. The most problematic items are those that had direct physical contact. Mattresses, pillows, blankets, armchairs where people spent their last days, and even clothes worn during illness. These items didn't just witness death, they intimately experienced it. Placing these objects in your bedroom, in your children's room, or in any space where your family rests and recharges is creating a catastrophic collision of opposing energies. On one hand, you're trying to sleep, dream, and renew. On the other, the object is emitting frequencies of closure and finality. These forces cannot coexist. One will inevitably contaminate and weaken the other. The manifestations are unmistakable, recurring nightmares with disturbing images, waking up feeling suffocated, morbid thoughts that you didn't have before, unexplained illnesses, or a deep melancholy that you can't shake off. Young children are especially vulnerable. They might completely refuse to sleep in certain beds, wake up screaming every night, or develop intense fears they never exhibited before. In Guadalajara, a family contacted me because their 4-year-old son refused to sleep in his new room. Every night he woke up crying, saying the sad man wouldn't let him sleep. The parents had bought a complete bedroom set second-hand, including the mattress, for a very low price. Investigating with the seller, we discovered that the furniture came from the room of their father, who had passed away from cancer after months bedridden in that very bed. Following St. Cyprian's ritual, we removed all the furniture from the house, energetically cleansed the room with purifying herbs, and replaced everything with new items. The transformation was immediate. That very night, the child slept peacefully for the first time in months. If you absolutely must use something from these places, the bare minimum is a thorough energetic cleansing, following St. Cyprian's method, exposure to sunlight for a full week, repeated smudging with purifying herbs like rosemary and rue, and sprinkling with holy water at the 4 cardinal points of the object. The third type of dangerous object that St. Cyprian warns about in his writings are gifts or belongings given to you by people with whom you had painful breakups or unresolved conflicts. In his Book of Secrets, St. Cyprian calls them objects of fractured bonds, and considers them particularly problematic because they maintain an active, energetic connection with the person who gave them. These objects function as emotional anchors that keep you tied to experiences you should have let go of long ago. St. Cyprian explained that when you receive a gift, that object becomes encoded with the energy of the relationship at that specific moment. If it was true love and harmony, the object may carry that beautiful frequency. But if the relationship ended in betrayal, deceit, abuse, or deep resentment, all that emotional toxicity becomes sealed in the object like a latent virus waiting to be activated. Every time your eyes land on that object, even accidentally, your nervous system reacts. It may be just half a second of tension, a slight tightening in your chest, a flash of anger or sadness. But those micro-traumas repeat hundreds of times, every time you open that drawer, every time you walk by that shelf, every time you clean that room. Over time, your energy field becomes marked with emotional scars that never heal completely because the physical trigger remains, constantly refreshing the wound. It's like living with a broken fire alarm that goes off randomly. Even though you learn to consciously ignore it, your nervous system never stops reacting. You live in a state of low-grade stress without realizing why you feel so emotionally drained. Saint Cyprian was particularly emphatic about objects given by ex-partners that ended in betrayal or deceit. In his writings, He warned that these objects maintain an invisible cord that allows that person's negative energy to keep flowing toward you, regardless of the physical distance. Many justify keeping these objects. It's too beautiful to throw away. I spent a lot of money on it. I can't just get rid of a gift. But here's the hard truth that St. Cyprian reminds us of. No material object, regardless of its monetary or aesthetic value, is worth more than your peace of mind. If something connects you to betrayal, pain, or resentment, that object is poison disguised as a memory. In Mexico City, I worked with a man who couldn't get over a traumatic divorce after 3 years. Every morning he put on a watch that had been a gift from his ex-wife. "It's a good watch," he insisted. "Why should I throw it away?" When he finally agreed to store the watch for 30 days as an experiment, he noticed an immediate difference in his emotional state. The morning anxiety he had normalized simply disappeared. His mind stopped reliving past scenes. For the first time in years, he felt he could breathe fully. Letting go of these objects isn't about erasing the past. It's about consciously choosing not to keep feeding old wounds. It's prioritizing your present well-being over attachment to things that represent pain, and that decision is incredibly liberating. The fourth type of object you should immediately eliminate, according to St. Cyprian's teachings, are dead plants, dry branches, decaying wood, and deteriorating artificial flowers. St. Cyprian referred to these elements as corpses that remain standing, warning that they represent a total absence of vitality. And where life is lacking, energetic decay finds the perfect environment to thrive. A living plant is a constant generator of vital energy. It literally transforms light into life, absorbing solar energy and releasing oxygen. But when that plant dies and you still keep it in your home, that process completely reverses. Instead of generating, it begins to consume. Instead of giving, it starts to take away. A cut branch was once connected to a living tree, flowing with sap and vital energy. But once separated and dried, it becomes what St. Cyprian called a vegetable corpse. It no longer has circulation, it no longer breathes, it no longer participates in the cycle of life. Instead, it acts like a microscopic black hole, absorbing energy from the environment without giving anything back, creating areas of stagnation and emotional death. Rotting wood is even worse because it is actively decomposing. Its molecular structure is collapsing, releasing frequencies of constant deterioration and decay. St. Cyprian wrote that what rots in matter also rots the nearby spirit. Having this in your home is literally inviting illness to settle in. It's not a metaphor. The energy of decomposition directly affects the physical well-being of those living in that space. Artificial flowers present a different but equally serious problem. St. Cyprian referred to them as beautiful lies, explaining that they were never alive to begin with. They are empty imitations, shells without a soul that pretend to be something they never were. When they are new and clean, they at least don't cause active harm. But when they age, fade, accumulate dust, or become damaged, they transform into grotesque symbols of falsehood and decay. What remains is the visual evidence of something that lies about its own nature, and that lie creates intense energetic dissonance. St. Cyprian specifically warned against keeping deteriorating artificial flowers in bedrooms, stating that they affect sleep quality and can cause vivid nightmares. These objects are like blockages in the circulatory system of your home, obstructing the natural flow until positive energy can no longer reach where it needs to go. Imagine a beautiful river. Now imagine that you start throwing dead logs into that river until the water can no longer flow. Stagnant pools form where there was once movement. The water rots, mosquitoes arrive, and what was once life becomes a swamp. That's exactly what happens to the energy in your house when you allow dead matter to accumulate. In Puebla, I worked with a family where the mother collected arrangements of dried flowers throughout the house. She had dozens of them, many over 10 years old, covered in dust and faded by the sun. The house had a heavy atmosphere, making it hard to breathe, and all family members suffered from constant allergies and chronic fatigue. When they finally agreed to remove all the dried flowers and replace them with living plants, the transformation was remarkable. Within less than 2 weeks, the allergies dramatically decreased, and the family's energy was completely revitalized. The fifth problematic object that Saint Cyprian warns about in his texts are statues, figures, or sculptures with aggressive, distorted, or threatening characteristics. I'm referring to images with expressions of rage, bodies contorted in agony, violent gestures, or shapes that convey chaos and destruction. Many people acquire them thinking they are interesting, mystical, or even protective, but St. Cyprian is clear about their real effect in the grimoire of protection. These representations are not neutral. Aggressive figures were historically designed for very specific contexts: war temples, besieged fortresses, or areas of intense energetic conflict. Their purpose was to create a field of intimidation to repel attacks. But that doesn't mean you should decorate your bedroom or living room with them just because they seem original or powerful. In his writings, St. Cyprian explains that what you display, you summon, the images you keep in your space attract energies of a similar nature. Placing an aggressive figure in a family space is like hiring an armed soldier in an attack stance to permanently stand in your kitchen while you have breakfast. It doesn't matter if it's made of stone or wood. The frequency it projects is one of confrontation, tension, and maximum alertness. And when you live surrounded by that vibration day after day, your nervous system eventually adopts that state as normal. St. Cyprian understood that energy responds to symbols and forms without distinguishing whether they are real or artistic. An image of violence generates a frequency of violence. A face contorted in hate emits waves of hate. If that is in your personal space, your energy field will eventually synchronize with that frequency. It's like living next to a noisy factory. Even if you consciously get used to the noise, your body never stops being stressed by it. In Veracruz, I visited a home completely decorated with threatening-looking tribal masks and figures representing warriors in attack positions. The family complained of constant conflicts, arguments escalating quickly to shouting, and even occasional physical fights. The father collected these pieces because he thought they were powerful and masculine, not understanding that he was literally decorating his home with symbols of aggression and conflict. When I explained this concept using St. Cyprian's teachings, he agreed to move his collection to a separate room in the house, turning it into a studio to display them. The rest of the common areas were decorated with images of peaceful nature and symbols of harmony. Within less than a month, the family atmosphere changed completely. Arguments decreased, and when disagreements arose, they were resolved calmly instead of escalating into larger conflicts. The sixth and final type of object you should never keep in your home, according to St. Cyprian's most severe warnings, are amulets, talismans, or esoteric symbols whose origin and purpose you are completely unaware of. In his Book of True Spells, St. Cyprian dedicates an entire chapter to what he calls orphan power objects, those elements created for magical purposes but that have lost their lineage and context. They may seem harmless, even pretty, but when it comes to objects specifically designed to interact with subtle forces, ignorance can be catastrophic. These objects were created with very specific intentions. Some are designed to trap entities, others to deflect curses to specific places, and others to anchor energies in ceremonial spaces. The problem arises when you take one of these objects out of its original context without understanding its function and bring it into your family home thinking it will bring you luck or protection. St. Cyprian used a powerful metaphor. An amulet without knowledge is like a weapon in the hands of a child. Think of amulets as energetic keys. Each one opens a specific door to specific frequencies. If you don't know what door you're opening, you have no control over what can come through it. You might honestly believe it protects you, when in reality, it's functioning as a beacon, attracting exactly what you fear the most. And the worst part is that the effects are cumulative and gradual. They start as small inconveniences, difficulty sleeping, unexplained irritability, minor household accidents, and grow into serious problems like persistent illnesses, financial losses, or severe family conflicts. In Tijuana, I attended to a family that had bought a house at a very low price. Since moving in, they experienced a series of disturbing events. Nighttime noises, feelings of presences, objects moving from place to place, and a general discomfort affecting all inhabitants. Upon inspecting the property, we found several amulets hidden in the walls, under the floor and behind outlets. The previous owner, as we later discovered, had been a practitioner of ritual magic and had placed those objects as part of his workings. Those amulets were not there to protect. They were there to seal and contain certain energies in the house. When the new family began living there without knowledge of these objects, they inadvertently disturbed a system they didn't understand. Following St. Cyprian's instructions for cases of abandoned power objects, we had to systematically remove each amulet, performing a specific ritual to cut their energetic connections before taking them out of the property. Then we deeply cleansed each space where they had been, and only then did the house begin to feel habitable again. Even amulets created with good intentions can be problematic if they don't align with your personal energy or with the purpose of your space. St. Cyprian insisted that power seeks resonance. An amulet designed for a warrior can create constant conflict in the home of a healer. It's like taking medicine prescribed for someone else with a different illness. Even if the medicine is good, if it's not for you, it can harm you. Amulets work exactly the same way. Amulets must be personalized, properly activated, and placed in specific locations. Buying one online or receiving it from a stranger and hanging it randomly is, according to St. Cyprian, inviting a powerful stranger to live in your house without knowing their intentions. Amulets are not spiritual decorations. They are not mystical accessories to collect. They are tools that require deep knowledge, absolute respect, and clear intention. If you cannot answer with certainty what that amulet does, who created it, what purpose it was activated for, and where it should be placed exactly, then it has no place in your home. Period. When low-vibration objects remain in your home too long, they begin to actively interfere with the entire energetic system of your space. St. Cyprian dedicated several pages to what he called signs of energetic infestation, clear signals that your home is under negative influence. Eventually, your house will start giving you very clear signs that something is deeply wrong. The first manifestations are usually physical and emotional. You wake up already tired, even though you've had enough sleep. Your dreams are filled with disturbing images. Or you find yourself waking up repeatedly for no apparent reason, especially between 3 and 4 a.m., which St. Cyprian called the hour of shadows. Your emotional state becomes unpredictable. You experience extreme irritability over small things, floating anxiety without an identifiable cause, or sadness that appears like a fog and doesn't go away for days. People in the house start clashing constantly, misinterpreting everything, losing patience over trivial matters, as if something is constantly whispering in their ears. Then environmental signals appear. Plants die no matter how much you care for them. Pets behave strangely. They avoid certain rooms, stare at empty spaces, or become anxious without provocation. Young children might refuse to enter certain areas, cry when you take them there, or wake up screaming with recurring nightmares. St. Cyprian considered children and animals as the first to see what is hidden from adults. All of these are signs that negative energy is actively present and gaining ground in your home. The good news, as St. Cyprian taught, is that no matter how heavy the energy is, It can always be cleansed and restored if you follow the correct procedures. The cleansing process should begin by identifying and removing the problematic objects during daylight hours, preferably between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., when the sun is at its highest. Saint Cyprian emphasized the importance of sunlight in these processes, calling it the Great Purifier. Open all the windows to allow fresh air to circulate and carry the old energy away. Keep your mind clear and your intentions positive while you work. After handling charged objects, wash your hands with running water to cleanse your personal field. Saint Cyprian recommended adding 7 drops of white vinegar to the water for this purpose. Then, following the instructions from the Book of Purifications, burn protective herbs like rosemary, rue or white sage, allowing the smoke to envelop every space, especially corners and thresholds. Recharge your home with sound, bells, soft sacred music, or simply your voice reciting Saint Cyprian's protective prayer, which begins by saying, "By the power of true light, may all shadow depart from this dwelling." If you wish, place clean charged quartz crystals at the 4 cardinal points of your house, or diffuse natural citrus or cinnamon essential oils, which Saint Cyprian considered especially effective for elevating the frequency of any space. But more important than any technique is your intention. Do not cleanse out of fear. Fear attracts exactly what you dread. Cleanse because you are preparing your space to receive blessings. As Saint Cyprian said, what you cleanse with love remains clean. What you cleanse with fear gets dirty again. Every object in your house should have a positive reason for existing. If it no longer does, if it causes you discomfort, if it reminds you of painful moments, or if it simply doesn't resonate with who you are now, letting it go is an act of self-love, powerful and irreplaceable. Your home doesn't need to be big or filled with expensive items. It just needs clear energy, bright intention, and space for life to flow freely. Saint Cyprian taught that a protected home is not one that has the most amulets, but one that has the least unnecessary weights. Always remember that you are the guardian of your sacred space. You decide what comes in and what goes out. You set the energetic boundaries that everyone must respect. Your conscious intention is the most powerful force in your home, more than any object, amulet, or ritual. If this content helped you, share it so others can also protect their space. The wisdom of Saint Cyprian has survived centuries because it works, because it recognizes fundamental truths about the nature of our reality, and because it offers practical solutions to real problems that many face without knowing why. Comment below, "My home is protected by the wisdom of Saint Cyprian," and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video, where I will reveal the complete home protection ritual that Saint Cyprian reserved only for his closest disciples. Remember, your home is your temple. Keep it sacred, keep it clean, keep it full of light. In an increasingly chaotic world, a truly protected space is the greatest treasure you can offer yourself and your family.